Investigative reporter Morgan Young spent the day digging for new information and has the latest on the suspect.
A New Year's Eve nightmare in New Orleans.
This is not just an act of terrorism. This is evil.
Corner bus after corner bus.
And on Wednesday, law enforcement shared more about one of the people responsible. 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar was an Army veteran and a Texan. His current address on record is at this home in Houston. A man who also lives in Houston says he owns the white Ford pickup truck that Jabbar used for the attack, telling ABC News he rented it to an individual through a car-sharing app called Turo. The FBI says law enforcement found an ISIS flag, multiple weapons, and potential explosive devices inside of that vehicle, and other potential explosives in the French Quarter. Investigators do not believe Jabbar acted alone, as they reviewed surveillance footage Wednesday that appeared to show people planting the explosives in the area.
And there's just bodies littered throughout the entire street.
Gruesome details and images continue to surface from people who lived it.
Unimaginable casualty, the disfigurement and the bodies strewn, something you can't unsee, you'll never forget.
Real life horror movie, everything the car is hitting, it's getting thrown.
City and state leaders asked visitors and residents to avoid the French Quarter as they work with federal agents to continue investigating.
This city has been tried by fire before, but fire makes things stronger. We are going to get these people. There is a path forward.
Again, law enforcement does not believe Jabbar acted alone. In a press conference this afternoon, a special agent with the FBI asked anyone with information to contact them, saying they are looking at a, quote, range of suspects.
Morgan, what do we know about the victims?
Slowly starting to come in. You know, you just mentioned that. We do know of at least one tie to North Texas at this point. One of the people who was killed in this attack is a young man named Tiger Besh. His brother, Jack Besh, is a student and football player at TCU. Jack posted this on X today saying, "Love you always, brother. You inspired me every day. Now you get to be with me in every moment." TCU's chancellor released a statement this evening offering condolences and prayers as well. Izzy.
Our thanks to you, Morgan.
Several new moms say they labored for days and didn't receive proper follow-up care at Origins Birth and Wellness Dallas. And investigative reporter Morgan Young has been digging into those claims. Morgan, what have you learned about this clinic?
Well, Chris, I can tell you WFAA Investigates has received a number of complaints from women who say that they've had those types of experiences at Origins Birth Center in Dallas. And some of those moms took those concerns to the state of Texas and the city. And now one of the center's clinics is closed and at least 2 state agencies are investigating these claims.
A person's pregnancy is precious and personal, so Amanda Calicut was intentional.
I wanted to have a natural birth in a beautiful space. My own experience that was calm.
Her research led her here to Origins Birth and Wellness Dallas, a birthing center staffed with nurses and midwives, providing a non-traditional, more personalized pregnancy and birthing experience.
And I thought that I was making the right decision.
Justice for Malik!
But earlier this month, about 8 months after giving birth to her son, Calicut joined other women in protesting Origins Dallas.
No practice!
Sharing stories of negative experiences with midwives, delayed hospital transfers, and excessively long labors.
I was in labor for 60 hours. That's not right. That's not normal.
They turned their complaints into reports. The Texas Health and Human Services Commission, which regulates birth centers in Texas, confirmed with WFAA it is actively investigating Origins to make sure it's following health and safety concerns. Emails between one mother and the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, which licenses midwives, says TDLR is investigating complaints about the center and individual midwives who work there. And the city of Dallas confirmed the building Origins was using as a clinic right next to its birth center was issued a notice of violation for not having a certificate of occupancy.
Knowing that I was in care in a clinic that hasn't been inspected by the city, that's scary.
Origins is owned by licensed midwives Gina Thompson and Caitlin Wages. They didn't want to answer any questions on camera, but invited us in for a tour of the birth center and provided a statement saying Origins Birth Services has provided comprehensive maternity care since 2013, delivering over 1,900 babies. It goes on to say, we have worked throughout all these years with the state licensing board, both for our birth center and for our midwifery licenses. Our center is inspected regularly and these policies and procedures are reviewed regularly as well. In our conversation, they emphasized the number of women they served without issue.
It doesn't matter.
But for these moms, it's about each personal pregnancy.
Every woman should feel safe giving birth, whether it's at the hospital, a birth center, at home, it doesn't matter.
The Texas Health and Human Services Commission said once it is finished with its investigation, we will be able to request that final report. Origin's co-owners told me they are working with the state in this investigation and they do not believe they will receive a citation. And you can actually read Origin's full statement on our website. Chris.
Tonight, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services is investigating the death of an 11-year-old boy in foster care.
He was living in Greenville at a state-licensed home for at-risk boys. And we've learned the facility was owned by a former NFL player. Investigative reporter Morgan Young discovered a history of safety issues, something the state was aware of.
Sounds like you see his hell. You don't want to go there.
But it's where an 11-year-old boy had been living for 2 weeks when he died last November, the day before Thanksgiving.
His dad don't care. They just don't care. I already knew that, but they ain't gonna shut that place down until somebody really get hurt. I already knew it.
On November 27th, staff from the Thompson Residential Treatment Center in Greenville took a group of 20 boys to see a movie. Court records state at the end of the 2.5-hour film, one of the children, who we are calling OR, was found unresponsive in his seat, bleeding from his nose. He was pronounced dead at a hospital shortly after. The medical examiner's office determined he suffered a complication with his intestines that caused bowel obstruction, ruling he died of natural causes.
Bowel blockage. Totally preventable. Somebody wasn't paying attention. And I don't care what other medical conditions he had. That's something that someone can monitor and do to correct.
Terry LaFawn is a registered nurse. She's also a former inspector for the state.
It's not surprising, but it's infuriating.
I requested the investigative documents from the Greenville Police Department and the surveillance video from the movie theater, which we do know exists, and I didn't get either. But the state of Texas has been in an ongoing legal battle over its foster care system for more than a decade. And part of that federal lawsuit requires the state to provide information to the court anytime a child in foster care passes away.
And according to federal court records, law enforcement officers told investigators with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services the day the boy died, staff initially told officers he was fine most of the day except for a possible stomachache, stating he walked in the movie on his own. But when officers watched security camera footage, they said they saw OR was unsteady on his feet and not able to walk on his own. Officers reported he looked like he was about to pass out and that staff were dragging him along by his arm before he fell to the ground. Officers said staff dragged him down the hallway, picked him up, and forced him into the theater, where there were no cameras. By the time the movie ended, he was dead.
The way them staff be treating them kids, I already knew it.
This young man, who we are not naming, lived at the Thompson RTC in Greenville for 2 years. He turned 18 and aged out of foster care last summer.
Was it safe?
No, not at all. Just to be out in the middle of nowhere, that's how they was getting away with all that stuff.
Stuff like fighting between the boys who lived there. He says not only would staff not intervene, they participated.
The staff didn't really care. The staff, I'll pay your kid to go fight.
He says staff was also violent with the children.
That's their way of putting kids in line. What can you do? It ain't no cameras, no none of that, bro. It's like there's nothing you can do in the closed doors, bro. There's nothing you can do but survive around that type of stuff.
Stuff the state had known about for more than a decade. In 2011, just 2 years after becoming fully licensed, Thompson's received 14 citations after investigators found children were choking and slamming each other, and that staff would referee the fights, make bets on who would win, and sometimes fight the children. He saw the same issues more than 10 years later.
Yeah, make bets. That's fighting scheme still going on.
Court records and state documents I obtained through an open records request reveal the state cited multiple forms of prohibited punishment, staff being physically aggressive with children, working with children without background checks, and numerous citations for failing to adequately supervise the boys in their care. In 2018, a child was hospitalized with an injury from how staff restrained him. In 2022, state officials wrote of several instances where the behavior of staff could harm children, going on to say the concern is that the administration may give staff many chances when policy is not followed. In November of 2023, a year before the child died at the theater, investigators found a caregiver choked a child while cursing at him. In January 2024, a staff member pushed a child to the floor, causing him to hit his head on a wall. The staff continued to restrain him, even though there was no indication the child posed a harm to himself or others. All incidents documented by the state, but HHS wouldn't take action to close Thompson RTC until December 4th, exactly a week after OR's death.
Why did a child have to die a year later? I mean, if staff is choking a child, that's a problem. It's categorized.
I obtained the full compliance report dating back to 2010 for Thompson's RTC, showing 232 deficiencies. 155 of them were marked either high or medium high risk. I asked LaFawn to review those records.
I mean, those are serious things. Those include things like abuse, children hurting children, staff hurting children. That's major stuff.
Court records indicate that the state's response to multiple violations from Thompson's was to increase inspections.
They're going back like within a week to do a follow-up to make sure that whatever the facility said they were going to fix, they fix it. And then 2 weeks later, they're back out there for the same stuff.
Was there somebody in the state that you felt like you could call and say, this is happening here?
I would have told them while I was still there, they find out every single time. They be calling investigations, we never win. There's always staff word over kids' voice. They always win the investigation.
Thompson's RTC was owned by former NFL linebacker Sean Thompson, who played for the Houston Texans and the Cleveland Browns. I reached out to him about the allegations against his former facility and staff. I'd like to chat with you when you get some time about your residential treatment center in Greenville that was shut down. He replied, nah, I'm good. Texas Health and Human Services denied my request for an interview. I asked for a statement explaining how and why Thompson RTC was able to remain licensed and operating despite a documented history of violence and negligence. They would only say that they determined the facility posed an immediate threat and notified the center it had to stop operating on December 4th, again a week after OR died.
Should this facility have been licensed?
No.
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 Our Investigates team found that not only did HHS allow Thompson's RTC to continue operating after years of violence and abuse, the state also licensed them to open 2 more facilities. You can read more about that right now on WFAA.com.
It's the horror film Sinners. It's already drawing a lot of crowds. Tonight, WFAA's Morgan Young shows us the only theater in North Texas where you can watch it just as the director intended.
It's one thing to watch a movie.
It was great. It was really, really good.
It's another thing to feel it.
Oh, definitely the experience. I believe it's a one of a kind because the screen you see, it really kind of grabs you in.
I've been all over this world.
The moments where it's dark and it's gritty, you feel that more.
For filmmaker Marquis Simmons, a movie is art.
If you're not attentive to it, you're not really in the vibe of it, right? Like you're not really in the moment.
So having a lens brought into focus by the artist is something special.
Sinners, we shot on the big boy format entirely.
In this video shared to Kodak's X account, director Ryan Coogler shares the many different ways to view Sinners, but one stands out.
Trying to get emotional talking about this, but this brings us to something very special that we doing, very rare.
Only 8 in the U.S. and on the list,
Webb Chapel in Dallas.
At this Cinemark IMAX.
You are in one of the 10 locations that is playing Sinners in 70mm IMAX. Yeah, exactly.
This is just an incredible way to experience the movie. It's the way that I came up experiencing movies.
Promising more depth and detail.
It kind of just expounds on everything that a horror film should be.
I loved it.
Just seeing it how it was intentionally meant to be seen.
This theater sold out all Friday night, limited seating the rest of the weekend. The general manager tells me your best bet is to look for a weeknight or that second weekend during this 2-week run. In Dallas, I'm Morgan Young.